Hey folks, Rick Maki here again, and I just wanted to pop on tonight, Sunday night, to have just a little bit of a discussion on a topic that keeps popping up here and there. Now I'm trying to find my... Sorry, I always end up doing these little technical things in the beginning because I'm running the show here, so I'm trying to find my chat, which does not seem to be showing here at all for some reason on this view screen. Un momento, por favor. Oh wow, that's odd. I've not seen that missing before. Okay, share one guest. That's me. Okay. Wow. Okay. Not sure what's going on with that. Let me try refreshing the browser. Private chat, but I don't have the public chat for some reason. Let me send a test chat, see if that goes out into Facebook. Let's see what happens here. No, it doesn't. See, that's the private chat. So let me... Alright, there's some kind of a problem with the stream. Really not sure what's going on there. Notes is new. Chat, here we go. Was hidden on the bottom. My screen was too large. You know, they have these little glitches, these technical glitches as a software engineer that kind of annoy me because it doesn't have to be this way, you know. If you just pay attention to the details when you test your software, you won't have this kind of problem. So if someone resizes the browser, not only does the chat resize, but it actually disappears. It goes off the screen and you can't see it. So anyway, we're back. So tonight's topic I wanted to cover was something that is another reoccurring thing that seems to be popping up. Is there's a lot of discussion that people are having. They're talking about being proud of doing their work on their mind and their spirit, but then forgetting about the body, or doing the work on the body and forgetting about the mind and spirit, and vice versa. So we've been focusing a lot on the mind and the spirit lately, and I figured maybe we'll get into some of the discussions about fitness and the important way to focus when you think about fitness, right? So it's like, well, who's this guy trying to tell me about fitness? Right. Well, I spent my whole life with fitness, and I'm not Arnold Schwarzenegger, but I look pretty good for my age. I'm going to be 59 this year, and I think I know a few things about how to keep the body healthy and how to keep the mind healthy and how to keep your focus, because it's like they're integrated, right? So it's not just the act of going to the gym and picking up some weights, and anyone can do that, and that lasts for a little while. So the discussion came up today about what's the importance of living up to some standard with fitness and feeling okay to just sort of let go of the obsession over fitness. This is such an important thing too, right? Because as a society, we tend to be so obsessed in either one way or the other. It's black and white thinking. It's either I'm all in and I'm just going to go crazy and I'm going to become addicted to exercise and that's all I'm going to spend my time on, and and they forget about the balance, right? The reason that happens is because they're not focused for the right reasons. They're focused on wanting to look good, wanting to measure up to society's standards, wanting to have, like, everyone admire them for some reason, for the way that they look, instead of it being about health, how you feel. And I know that tends to be something that when you're younger, it's more the ego aspect, because there may be reasons why a person wants to become a bodybuilder, let's say, and sometimes they overdo it, and sometimes that's another thing that becomes an addiction. And I'm not saying all bodybuilders, but some people use it as a way to protect themselves, because either they were bullied when they were younger or something like that. It happens, right? So they get into it for the wrong reasons, and they go at it hard. A lot of times they end up injuring themselves. They end up getting into things that are not healthy for the body. And we've seen it time and time again with these bodybuilders who, they do great for a while and they way overdo it, and they have an injury that's just something they can't recoup from. So, when I was younger and I was approached at some point to become sponsored for some of these competitions in bodybuilding, and I was going to get full sponsorship and a free ride to the stage. And so he said, the guy who was going to sponsor me says, I'm going to hook you up with this other guy, and he knows all about it, he's been through it before, and I think you'd be a really good candidate for that. I'm totally excited about it, because I had been following it for quite a while when I was a young kid, and Arnold Schwarzenegger and some of the other amazing, Mike Mentzer, all those guys, at the time, were really kind of my idols growing up. So that was really kind of something that I always wanted to do. So the first thing that I found out in order to become competitive in competitive bodybuilding was that you basically were forced to take steroids back then. I don't know what it's like now, but I think it may still be kind of the same thing. But as soon as I heard that, I'm like, no, I'm out. I don't need the stage. It's not the reason why I do this. I do it because I like fitness. I do it because I like to feel good. I like to feel strong. I like to feel confident, and that was the reason why I got into, exercise and fitness when I was so young. And so I think I had a little bit of an advantage as a young man, in my early 20s, mid to late 20s, actually, when that happened, that I just already had that mindset that I don't want to pollute my body with something that I know could harm me. Not that some of the natural things that we were taking back then had some of the similar negative effects that we didn't know until later. Excuse me, but as soon as I found out, I dropped whatever I was taking. If it was something that wasn't as natural as they said it was. So, what I try to teach people when I was a personal trainer, I used to be a personal trainer. I got certified through the National Academy of Sports Medicine at one point, and I had a lot of clients. I turned a lot of people's fitness around. I had this one guy who, just as an example, came to me, had a really big pot belly on him, and he's like, well, how long is it going to take me to get rid of this? I mean, I think it took me 5 to 8, almost 10 years to get like this, and I'm upset with myself, and I let my body go, and I used to be, healthy and strong and active and and everything, and I said, well, if you do everything I tell you to do with your diet, with your exercise program and everything, I guarantee you I could turn this around in 6 months. You'll have no more pot belly on you. And he's like, no way, this is not going to happen. I'm like, all right, so you're going right to the negative, right? So you can either go right to the negative or you can give it a shot, I said. And he's like, okay, all right. And I don't know if we did a little bet. I think we might have did a little bet. I think it was like a $50 bet or something like that. That was a long time ago. And I vaguely remember that there was an aspect of it like that. And I think that came a little bit later. Because I think in his early couple of sessions, he really wasn't feeling it, right away. I said, you just got to stick with it. You show up every day. Do what I told you to do. And so he kept coming to the gym. He kept doing what I told him to do. I would help guide him along the way. And after a few sessions, I'd say probably 5 or 6 sessions of one-on-one, he was on his way. And in that 6-month period, I hadn't seen him in a while because I was training other people, not even really paying attention to it at that point. But I would say right around the 5 or 5.5 month mark, he comes up to me and he goes, hey, do you remember me? And I'm like, I totally didn't even remember him. He didn't look like the same person. His face didn't look the same. His body didn't look the same. And the energy level didn't look the same. He wasn't the same person. He was just a much happier, and the belly was gone. Like, it was completely flat. He wasn't like totally ripped or anything, but he totally got rid of the belly fat and everything. I was just so proud of that. So, it's like when you want to do it. That's the biggest key. Like, what's your why for fitness, right? So, hold on. I think I gotta see if there's we got a watcher going. Just want to keep an eye on the chat there as we go through. But anyway, so that was an interesting story, and I would have success with people like that here and there, but I also found that I turned into more of a life coach in a lot of ways for people, because behind a lot of the dysfunction with their fitness was some kind of a mindset of this vision of themselves. They couldn't see themselves as a transformed individual. They couldn't see themselves as this thing that they wanted to be. So I had two challenges. One was a challenge of the people who felt like they were undeserving of fitness. And then the other was the solely focused on the way I look kind of fitness people. So they only cared about how I'm going to look in the end. They didn't care about how I feel, that your ligament and tendon density is going to go up, you're going to feel stronger, there's going to be all these great benefits to being a fit person. And but underlying that was this feeling. As I dug into it, I would ask them, well, why is that your first focus? Why is the way that you look the most important part of it for you? And a lot of the time it was because of bullying as a child, or feeling inadequate compared to society's standards. They wanted to kind of even the playing field in a lot of ways. And I think we can all relate to that to some extent, that we've all had a little bit of that sort of thing growing up, or even as an adult. Think about how dating sites are now, and the standards that people throw out, and it's like it's a whole different ball game from what it used to be. And so are relationships. This gets into the whole psychology behind the way that people think about what's important, right? What's important to them. And a lot of it is flash. It's, and it's great when you're young. And I feel really bad for the younger generation, because they're the ones struggling with all this stuff right now. They are totally lost in narcissism and just debauchery and partying and no self-discipline and no self-respect. It's sad to see. It's heartbreaking to see that. I grew up, my upbringing wasn't perfect. Nobody's upbringing is perfect. But the one thing that I was taught was self-respect, and reputation is important. To always do a good job, no matter what we do, no matter how much we're getting paid. To instill these important values that on the surface seem so simple, but the same discipline that you apply to that, you apply to the gym. You figure out your reason why. Like, what is the reason why? You can choose the reason for, I want to look better, but that never sticks, because we're going to age no matter what. And as the years go on, if you can't maintain that perfect vision that you have of yourself, of this perfect body that's always going to be, like totally jacked, throughout your whole lifetime, and like everything's got to be perfect, like we got to fix everything so that's just perfect like that, and it becomes an obsession. We're obsessing over perfectionism, and then when you can't get it, you just give it up. And that's what a lot of people do. When they get to a certain point, they just say, okay, well, I'm not getting what I was getting out of it before, so they give it up for a little while. They get depressed. They fall back into bad habits, and before you know it, they're self-destructing again, right? So, yeah, it's just the wrong mindset. That will always follow, and that is a factor in the reasons why people, they want to fit better into their clothes, that kind of stuff. That's more a practical application, or a practical observation of the outcome of fitness, rather than, I want to be bigger than this guy, or that guy's got this size biceps, I want those size biceps, or whatever. Instead of looking at what's the best, how can I be the best person I can be physically, right? But does it start with picking up weights and learning how to exercise, or does it start with something else? Does it start with something deep within your heart? Something you have to get past, like the lack of confidence and feeling like you can make it, or that you can accomplish your goals with fitness. And I found that when I was training, I spent most of my time counseling people, figuring out why they keep giving up on themselves, or that they're not able to push themselves. They want the prize at the end, but they have a hard time putting in the work. And the older we get, the harder that gets. I do the best I can. I work out really hard when I work out, because I don't have as much time as the same number of days that I can apply to exercise. So when I work out, it's 3-4 hours, so I'm kind of like getting it all done in one day. But I have to be careful with that. But what is your why? Figure out why you want to do it. And it can't be because you want to look good. It's not going to last. It just never does. It never does. The real reason to exercise is because you want to be healthy. You want to be healthy. You want to last. Checking the live here to see what's going on. So why does that still look like it's not doing anything here? Hold on for a second. Nope, there it goes. I had to refresh the browser for some reason. Alrighty. Okay, so what ends up happening, right? So people, they go through the obsessive way of being a fitness person. They become very obsessed. They push themselves to such a limit where they get burnt out. So now you have this burnt out person who's really not doing it for the right reasons, and they just finally get tired of all the pressure they're putting themselves under, right? Now, this isn't just for the exercise part of it. This could be for the diet part of it. It could be for, anything like that. Hold on. I just shrunk down my browser accidentally. I want to remove that visual so that I'm not distracted over here. I needed to check the live feed to see if we have any watchers going. We do have a few popping in here and there on a Sunday night. Thanks for coming in. So where was I at? So I was talking about how you become obsessed over dieting, or looking a certain way and starving yourself, or in some cases I've had people who were bulimic or anorexic. That's another opposite extreme from people who overeat, right? But it's the same psychology behind that. It's the same psychology of feeling inadequate, feeling like you don't measure up, feeling like society looks at you. You have this false vision of what you think you need to be to please those around you, to become accepted in the community or in your inner circle. And oftentimes I would say, well, if your inner circle is putting that kind of pressure on you, perhaps you need a new inner circle. We talk about that a lot too when I was a trainer. If the people around you are setting up standards in order to be their friend, like, well, you look like you gained a couple of pounds. What happened? Used to be so pretty, or hey, dude, it looks like your biceps are shrinking today, and it's like, oh gosh, I know, are they? It's like, who gives a hoot on that stuff? Like, just do your best. Just be your best every single day. It doesn't matter what anybody thinks about you. The level of effort that you can put in at any given time, that's up to you. As long as you're doing your best to be healthy, to take care of yourself, watch your diet, right? And to me, diets should be simple. Simple. You think about, I used to tell people, become a diabetic before you are one. Become a heart patient before you are one. Because guess what happens when you become a heart patient or a diabetic? You don't get to just eat whatever you want, right? Now, you have two situations there. If you do it preemptively and you say, okay, well, I classify myself or identify as diabetic. That's a good way of saying it, right? I identify as diabetic so that I can prevent the damage that diabetes causes, right? So that means lowering the kinds of, looking at the kinds of carbohydrates you take in, number one first, right? That's the first thing have you eliminate as a diabetic, because what do the simple carbohydrates do? They cause inflammation in the body. They create plaques in the arteries and veins. It just destroys the body. The body can't do anything with a simple carbohydrate. All those starches, the sugars, all that stuff is so damaging to your cells. And I think people need to study their nutrition as well. And that's such an important aspect of being healthy. There's a lot of people that come off of drugs. They can't take drugs because they have negative side effects, but yet like the cholesterol medications, for example, a lot of those will cause problems with the pancreas, pancreatitis. People can die from certain things, certain reactions. I had a friend who was in the hospital twice and almost didn't make it, probably. I think it was pretty severe for him. And what did they end up doing? They put him on niacin. That's natural. It doesn't have that effect on people. It's a natural vitamin. It's one of the B vitamins. So, there's ways of treating yourself now. Treat your cholesterol. That's what that was for, to lower your cholesterol. Treat your blood pressure. Nattokinase. Nattokinase opens up the tiniest little capillaries and removes a lot of the amyloid plaques from not only your arteries and veins, but from your brain. It's showing such promising. There's even NIH studies on it that are great, that give it a good rating. But the unfortunate thing is the industry in which the vitamin industry competes with, which I can't say on video without it being flagged, suppresses those studies. They don't actually invest a lot in that because that's not their goal. That's not really what they research and do. So it's up to us as individuals to do the research, to figure out what works for us as individuals, what health and fitness choices we can make before we have to ask for our doctor's treatment. We don't want to wait until a doctor tells you have to do something or you're going to die. If you take life seriously, you need to take fitness seriously. It's as simple as that. Or you will die. You will die. Well, I mean, we're all going to die, right? We're all going to die of something. We're all, you could be the fittest guy in the world, catch cancer and die tomorrow. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is preventing, as much as you can, negative outcomes through fitness, through making the right decisions. And that's really where the focus needs to be. And then, getting your mind straight on your why, you have to dig into your mind and your spirit, right? Like, what are the reasons why you're doing what you're doing? What are the reasons why you're doing what you're doing in your career? It's the same thing, right? You need to apply the same principles of, finding purpose in everything we do. Like, if that's a job, if that's just donating your time to help other people, if that's to take care of yourself, it's all a form of self-love and care. And, the whole reason that we're here on this planet, I believe, is to be of service to others, mind, body, and spirit. It's to take everything that we've learned as we've gone through the years and teach it to other people. Teach them how to be happy. Teach them how to find the motivation and the discipline. When I talk about motivation, a lot of times I feel like most motivation comes externally, but discipline comes from within you. Discipline is when you can look at something and say, I don't want to do this right now, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to get up and I'm going to get the ball rolling. It's like, that's how you beat depression too. So if you're the kind of person who falls back into depression all the time and you're just like, I'm just going to lie here in bed all day, I can't do it, I can't keep moving today. It's like, you take your rest, you had your sleep. Get up. Keep moving. Always keep moving. Because if you don't, you're going to be in a negative, dark cycle that you can't get yourself out of. That's the same with fitness, physical fitness, with mental fitness, or anything else. You have to keep moving forward. I'm sort of ambiently rereading the book called Think and Grow Rich from Napoleon Hill back in the Depression era. This book is timeless. It talks about how to align with your purpose. It talks about how to be, it's about success with money. That's the main purpose of the book. But it talks about it's more about success, not money. The money always follows, and that's what they talk about in the book. It's more about aligning with your purpose to be successful, to have a vision of what you want to be with an idea. Everything starts with an idea, but you have to have a clear vision, almost as if you've already accomplished the goal, right? That's the same with fitness. I used to tell people, use your visualization. See yourself the way that you want to be. See yourself in those jeans that you used to be in high school. See yourself. Just visualize yourself. Even if you have to put up old pictures of yourself, something that kind of reminds you of where you used to be. Not to set a standard like that you have to reach that exact level, but it's like shooting for the stars and landing on the moon. That's okay. You're still making strides. You're still moving yourself forward. And so it starts with a vision, and then you come up with a plan, right? And it has to be a smart plan. It can't be, this fear-based thing where you're only doing it because, somebody made a comment about you at the grocery store. Said, oh, that person's gained, they were whispering and gained, oh, that person gained a lot of weight, whatever. Like, it doesn't matter what other people think. If that's your motivator, you're just not, it's not going to last. I mean, it'll last a while, but I can tell you through my years of being in the fitness industry, watching it time and time again, and being a trainer and actually living what I'm saying, it's like those people that are successful have a mind of a warrior. And anyone can find that mind of a warrior, where you're like, okay, I'm a mess. I have addiction to food. I have addiction to alcohol. I might even have addiction to drugs. Whatever it is, it all comes down to a decision. Do you want to continue on that path, or do you want to change it? Do you want to say, enough's enough? I don't want this life anymore. What can I do to change it? What is the information and the people I can seek out that have gone through what I've gone through? Listen to their stories. Listen to what it is that they did to become successful, to be happy with themselves, and avoid the ones that focus solely on ego, because even their success will only last for so long that way. If their mindset is to outdo the next guy, to be a competitive individual instead of a team-based oriented, helping each other mindset. It's like looking at a boss versus a leader, right? In the corporate world, the best, most successful companies have leaders. They don't have bosses. They don't have a top-down structure. They have a very matrixed organization where you have multiple people managing different sectors of the business, and it's never a top-down. It's not totally top-down. You have managers in the breadth and the depth as well, and you're able to, as a minion or someone at the bottom of the totem pole who's doing all the work, to communicate up the chain, and they take what you have to say seriously because you actually have a unique insight, a daily insight into the inner workings of the business. So the difference between a leader and a boss is a boss has ego, and a leader, when I say a boss has ego, a boss has negative ego, right? They have a tyrannical style to them. Because I hate it when we say, oh, he has ego, right? The problem with saying that is there's also something called a positive ego, right? And its egos can have a style, right, to it. So, but when we talk about ego, most of the time we're talking about a negative one. So I like to differentiate when I talk about that. So a negative ego is in a boss, and a leader doesn't even consider ego really as playing into it at all. Their main goal is to better the people around them, hire people who are smarter than them, so that they can build a successful company. The best leaders in the world are people who can identify talent and put it in the right place. My boss is one of those people, and I'm not brown-nosing. I don't do that. I don't really care. He doesn't listen to my show. But the point is, he is almost like a genius and able to pick out the players and to remember their skills and to say, hey, this project is for that guy. This project is for that guy. And oh my God, this would be great for this person here. And it just is so well orchestrated that way, to the point where he almost doesn't have to do much of the day-to-day work. But what he does is so important. As a leader, a person that has that mindset of doing it for the right reasons, number one, and having a passion for what they do. So yes, and to bring it back to fitness, you also need to remove the ego from what you're doing with fitness, because as soon as you do that, it opens up a whole new world. You're not sitting there, oh, I have to throw another 100 pounds on the bench press because the guy beside me is bench pressing 400 and I'm only doing 300. It's like, stop it. Just stop it. It's ridiculous. Because that guy might rip his pectoral muscle out of his freaking shoulder tomorrow, and so we don't want to run on ego ever. It's all about doing the right thing. It's doing it at your right pace. It's being smart, using your mind. You can't be a successful person in fitness without using your brain. Not that accidents don't happen to people who have been doing it for years. It's happened to me recently. I injured my shoulder because I was using a new piece of equipment that I wasn't accustomed to. Those things are different. But when you're pushing yourself to the point where you are constantly injuring yourself because you're trying to keep up with the Joneses, then you're in it for the wrong reason. You're not going to last. Your body's going to wear out. You're going to tear it apart, and it's just simply not going to last for you. And you don't want permanent injuries like that. So, I talk about this from the aspect of bodybuilding, but, you can push yourself too much running on a treadmill, or, running in the woods, or running on pavement, or whatever. Overdoing it with diet, becoming bulimic or anorexic, or just limiting your calories to such an extreme. And I hate to say, but sometimes fasting's a good idea, but people go with it. I like the intermittent fasting because I think it's a smarter, healthier way of going at it. And I've tried a couple of different ways of doing fasting. Everybody's a little bit different, but I think when you take it to the extreme of you go along with a diet plan, and then you give up your diet plan, you let yourself get unhealthy again. You gain a bunch of weight, you go back to your bad habits, and you use fasting as a way to sort of quickly get all the weight off again. The problem with that is the body naturally wants to regain what it lost every single time. So if you try to lose weight too quickly, and you do it through extremes such as starving yourself, that's essentially what fasting is. If you're going to say, I'm going to go for 2-3 weeks or a month without food, and all I'm going to do is drink water, why are you doing that? Your body's going to break down. Your body needs the nutrients it needs to keep your ligaments and tendons healthy. But every person's body's a little bit different, when it comes to vegan versus eating meat, and not, that's a whole other spiritual, philosophical conversation. But I know a lot of people who started off on the full vegan path ended up having to add eggs in because they're snapping their foot off at the beach, because they literally let their ligaments and tendons and bones kind of just dry up on them. So their bodies just needs a certain amount of cartilage and proteins, certain amount of complex proteins in order to keep itself going. I happen to be one of those people. I don't like the fact that I eat meat. In fact, I struggle with that a lot. I was what was called a chickatarian for about 10 years, or maybe even longer, probably closer to 13 years overall. Never ate any red meat. And finally, my body just had enough. It needed to have a variety of the different types of proteins, and in order for me to feel strong and think clear and all those things, a lot of my inflammation went away when I added red meat back in. I don't know what it is, but there's every single person on the planet has a different way of responding to certain foods, but every single one of us will respond negatively to a simple carbohydrate like white flour, for example, or like white rice, white potato. There's a lot of things you can do to have smaller portions of those things where they won't spike your blood sugar so much, like eating the the potato skins instead of the full bulk of the potato itself. If you have a thin layer and you're eating the skins, apparently that doesn't spike the blood sugar as much. You can learn a lot by talking to a diabetic. My mother's a diabetic, so I learned a lot of the things from her. So she would tell me, you could almost eat a whole potato, but if you eat the skins, the blood sugar for some reason doesn't get as spiked, doesn't spike as into the bad range. So there's something to be said for doing your research, and maybe even if you're not a diabetic, buying a thing to test your blood and trying some foods and see what does spike your blood sugar. There's a direct correlation, they say, between the spiking of blood sugar and the inflammation in the body. But it requires a lot of research, and a lot of this stuff is alternative, and some of it is just through my own, experimentation and figuring out what works for me and what worked for most of my clients at the time. White pasta and white flour is just useless to the body, and you will gain weight. Every bit of that will be stored within 10 to 15 minutes in your body as fat, because the body doesn't know what to do with it. There's nothing it can do with it. It can't use it as an immediate energy store, as muscle glycogen or blood glucose. Maybe a little bit stays there from that, but that's primarily, most of it gets stored as fat in the reserves. So you'll notice the more pasta you eat, the more simple carbohydrates you eat, the more weight you're going to gain. And that's a fact. I've proven it time and time again. I was in my early 20s, I was probably 245 pounds at the time, almost 250 pounds, embarrassingly enough, at my height. And I remember having shin splints and inflammation and pain and tired all the time, and I couldn't figure out why I would gain so much weight, so much fat around my waist and everything. Like I had really gained like a tire right here, like all around, and I was just like I'm freaking in my 20s. Why am I even doing this, right? So I didn't put two and two together right away, because back then I knew nothing about nutrition at all. So I'm like, hey, let me think about this logically. What did I do to my diet that's different? So I went from living with mom to living on my own. That's the first thing I thought of. I said, okay, well, when I lived at home, did I eat this much pasta? Did I eat this much cheap food? No. My mom always had meat on the table, so there was always steak, there was always, ham or something, some kind of meat, chicken, whatever. There was a lot of high protein stuff, and I wasn't needing to eat a lot of the filler stuff. So I would have a little bit of it and pretty much stay pretty strong. So I was probably, when I was living at home, I'd say 185 pounds. I'm 200 pounds on average now. It's like 200, 205, somewhere around there. Sometimes 210 if I gain a little bit of extra muscle mass if I'm working out harder. But when I blew up to almost 250 pounds, and a good 30 pounds of that was fat, 30 to 40 pounds probably, I couldn't understand. I was working in construction industry. I was working my butt off every day. I worked hard, and I was gaining weight. And I looked at what I was doing. I said, okay, well, I come home, I eat a pasta dinner, and yes, I would put meat sauce on it and maybe have some meatballs or whatever, but I was eating a ton of pasta. Then I would take the leftovers because, I didn't have a lot of extra money, so I'm like, I'm going to take my leftovers, bring that for lunch, and if I didn't bring that for lunch, and then they had the food truck, there was, what did they have? It was like a pasta and meat and cheese thing. What was that called? Chicken. It was called, gosh, I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, it was called something that I used to always get it. It was really, really good. And But basically, it was mainly pasta, a little bit of meat, but mostly pasta. So I started to think about what I was eating, and I said, well, I'm really kind of out of balance here. I'm not getting enough vitamins. I'm not getting enough minerals. So I started taking some vitamins, first of all. That was the first thing I did. I started supplementing, taking some amino acids, getting some extra protein through protein shakes since I couldn't afford a lot of meat at the time. So I did that. I lowered the amount of pasta I was eating, focusing on sandwiches and sandwich meats, and man, did the pounds come off. And that was in my 20s. It came off like that. I was ripped. I was totally ripped. Like, you could see all the like striations in my, like, every muscle on my whole body. And it was so amazing. Like, people were like, what did you do? I'm like, dude, all I really did was take a few vitamins and change what I was doing. I just took a few vitamins and just stopped eating all the pasta. And the weight just melted off of me. And it's been off ever since my 20s. And I'm almost 59 years old. I'll be 59 in July. And it's like, I think about that. I think about, had I not taken the interest in myself to learn about nutrition, to learn about how what I eat affects my body as an individual, and to know that I have history, like a family history of diabetes and cancer and heart disease, people who had to contend with those things at a young age, and my grandfather dying really young from heart disease, I decided I don't want that for myself. My uncles too. My uncles actually introduced me to fitness when I was probably I was always exercising to some extent. There was a weight set in my basement since I was 12. I think when I was probably 14 years old, I visited my uncle in Minnesota, and I saw his personal transformation. He went from this skinny guy to like this holy crap, massive biceps and just big dude. And I'm like, and this was literally over one summer, I think, like one whole year. We would go there every year in the summer to visit from Massachusetts, and I'm just like in awe of this person. Like, what did you do? How did you do all this? So yeah, it was cool. It was very, very cool. And we had that special bond over fitness, and maybe he was a little obsessed with it, and maybe I was too at the time, because I was kind of young, and of course looking up to my uncle as sort of an idol now, someone to emulate. And it's not all bad, but I think in the beginning for me it was a little more shifted in the looks area, because I'm young and I want to look good and look attractive, and you're young and you're dating and doing all that stuff. But as I got older, I realized that's not really the reason I do it. Where all my other friends were out drinking and they're having fun and doing all that stuff, I couldn't do it. I tried, but I would end up with migraines and sick, and take me a week to recover from just one night, and I'd black out, different things like that. And so early on, I knew that wasn't the lifestyle that I wanted to lead. I said, you know what? I feel so much better. I feel so confused when I'm under the influence, and its after effects really affected my thinking, my equilibrium. I would have vertigo. It would do all kinds of crazy things to me. And at first I didn't necessarily correlate it to that, because I figured, well, maybe there's something else going on. Maybe because I had ear problems and other things like that. So I didn't see the correlation there. But as I got older, and I would almost try to go back, have a beer here and there, I would still have the same effects over and over again. And I realized, well, you know what? Focusing on fitness and taking care of myself, first of all, is an act of self-love and self-care. And then secondly, it's it's life-changing, because when you switch from it being about, hey, I used to be bullied when I was a kid, to I don't care about that anymore, I've forgiven all that, and the reason I'm doing this is because I want to feel good, I want to feel strong, I want to feel confident, you know. I want to feel like I can protect the people around me if I need to. You know, I don't want to be weak, you know. I want to be strong and, you know, at least do my best, you know, to be strong and healthy. And to be there for the people that I love, you know, and to be there as a strong individual to say, hey, you know what, I'm going to be here a long time to take care of the ones I love. And, you know, and I attribute that to this idea of doing it for the right reasons, like, you know, loving yourself enough to say it's not about ego. It never is. And as soon as someone thinks that or says that, it can hurt a little bit when that happens, because you know the effort that you put in and the reasons why you're doing it. But again, you pull ego out of it, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what other people think. You know why you're doing it for yourself. That's the key. But I made that sound simple, didn't I? It's all so simple, Rick. Just don't use your ego. Just you know, just be strong and do the right thing. Well, that's not that easy for a lot of people, because they have not studied the correlation between the mind, the body, and the spirit. Everything being vibrational, everything being about balancing a positive energy. Because if you have a bad mental state, you're not going to feel like exercising. If you have a bad mental state, you're not going to feel like dieting. You're like, what the hell's the use? I don't care. I'm just going to eat whatever I want. I'm just going to give up because it's not important to me. You know, they go the other extreme. They say, well, I used to care about what everybody thought. Now I'm just angry and I don't give a crap what other people think. That's not the right way to be either, right? It's not that you want to care about what other people think. It's that you're just taking it to the other extreme. You've given up. You've given up on yourself. Don't ever give up on yourself. You can't do that. I mean, you can, but why? You only have one life to live. You might as well live it happy. You know what I mean? You might as well live it happy. So I'm going to check the chat area, see if anyone's popping in here or if anyone's made any comments. Because for whatever reason, the last couple of times the comments haven't made it through. It is a Sunday, so a lot of people aren't really watching on a Sunday. I will start doing some of these in the middle of the week, but I just wanted to touch on that subject because I think it's so important for people to realize the importance of finding that discipline and finding that reason why to do fitness and how it correlates to your spiritual well-being and your clear mind, you know, because your body and your brain is part of your physicality. You know, your body chemistry is affected by your exercise level and your dieting, everything that we consume. You put creams and ointments on your skin, all that stuff gets absorbed, the skin being the largest organ in the body. If we put a bunch of pollutants on there with our soaps and our creams and different things, we have to be careful what it is we're putting on there. We just have to know the ingredients and know how harmful it can be. Yeah, just saw an ad for Zantac about how people are now, you know, they used to think that was the best stuff to take for acid reflux, and it was recommended as safe and effective and, you know, everything else, and approved for so many years, and it did work quite well, but it was giving people cancer. Turns out it was giving people cancer. So we have to be careful. We have to be on top of, you know, wait a few years, let other people figure it out, you know, or let the labs figure it out. I don't know what's the best way. It's sad to say let someone else be the guinea pig, but it's almost like we have to be smart and wait, you know. I use baking soda for that. I just put a little bit of teaspoon of baking soda into a glass of water and mix it up and drink it down, and instant relief. I don't have a problem. I can sleep all through the night. It totally takes care of any buildup of acid in the stomach. And, it can be a really bad thing for some people, It can come up in the middle of the night and you can choke on it. It can be bad for people. So you do need something. You need to figure out what works for you. But, anyway, I don't know how much else I can say about that other than make sure if you're going to, talk about your fitness level and say, I used to be so extreme with it and now I don't care because I'm not going to hold myself to some standard. Be very careful with that, because you're holding yourself to a standard which is the polar opposite of some extreme. Now you used to be like, okay, I'm going to be a real stickler for everything. Now I'm just going to go the opposite extreme and just not care. Like, that's not the right thing to do, because then you're just giving up on yourself. You want to make sure you keep self-love as the focus, and you're going to take care of yourself. It's too easy to give up. Too easy to give up on the discipline too. We get tired sometimes. I get that, but it's like, as long as you're doing what you can do at any given moment, it's not about being perfect. It's not about doing it up to someone else's standards. It's like, set the standard yourself. Set the bar for what you want to do with fitness. You set the bar with what you want to do with spiritualism or religious research, or building your mind, your education, those kind of things. Like, you have to set the bar. If you let other people set the bar for you, you're going to live a life of misery. I think there's a lot of people who go to university and they're not doing it for the right reason either. They're doing it for ego, again, because they want to be a doctor. Not because, I'm just using that as an example, because they get paid a lot of money. And a lot of people get into that because of the money, not because they want to be, helping people. So some do, some don't want to help people. And some are following in the footsteps of their father, right? So it's like, you need to find out what your passion is and spend the time and effort on something that is truly aligned with who you are. That's where the happiness is, right? You're not going to find it through following in someone else's footsteps or living up to someone else's standards. Or, I want that Ferrari and that's going to be the coolest thing, and I'm going to get the big house and the mansion and all those things. And you can have those things and be living out your purpose, and that's totally fine, and you're doing everything you wanted to do, and you're getting the things you want out of life. But you could also do it and be totally miserable. You're living a life, all you have are those things. Like, you're not adding anything back to life, because you're not putting your heart into your career. You're not putting your heart into your fitness. You're not putting your heart into your spiritual development. It's all because I've even seen it in the churches, where people go to church because it's an ego thing. They want to be important in the community. It's not because they actually care about the community or that they love people. My parents are a perfect example of lifelong dedication to the church and doing it for the right reasons, because they love people. They love the kids that they taught Sunday school to. They love the values they're instilling people. They keep their minds flexible and open to different ideas. It's incredible to witness. It's incredible to witness that. And I'm so proud as a son to see that level of faith that they have. And it's not filled with dogma. They're not so wrapped up in hellfire and brimstone and fear and all those things. That's not what their focus is. Their focus was on community. They ran the local bingo for must have been over 30 years, when they could do it. And every week for that that many years. That's love. That's the kind of thing that you don't even recognize ego. You don't even see that as part of it at all. They're not doing it to look good. They're doing it because they care. They weren't getting that much help in doing what they were doing, but they just love to give of themselves. They had the opportunity to do that after they were retired. And I'm very proud of that. And those are principles that I take into my life and the people that I teach and train. Whether that's mind, body, or spirit. And the reasons we take care of our bodies is because our bodies are a reflection of how we are feeling on the inside a lot of the time. And not all the time. Sometimes people have a sickness they can't control it. But most healthy people, if they let themselves go, there's something on the inside that's causing that. There's something that they're not dealing with on the spiritual or the emotional side of things that needs to be addressed. The same reason why people become 300, 400, 500 pounds, 600 pounds. That's things that are left undone within them that cause that. And anybody can turn it around through desire and intention to want to heal. Sometimes it's too late for people, though, when it comes to the physical body. They've done too much damage, and all they can do is salvage as much as they can what they have. Anybody that does that, I see people on social media every day. They're getting tired of the lies about things, and they're getting tired of the ego and the standards of society. They get tired of it all, so they go ahead and they push ahead. They get it done every single day through discipline, not motivation. Discipline. Motivation to me, again, is like a thing that has to be driven externally. A lot of people will hire a trainer. They used to hire me to say, well, I need you to get on me. No, I'm not that kind of trainer. That's not what I do. I teach you not to need that. I teach you self-discipline. I teach you what self-discipline is. What's the reward? What's the reason for doing what we do? That's what I teach. And that's what I'll continue to teach till the day I die. I'll try to be the best example I can be of health and fitness. I'm definitely not perfect, but I try to do the best I can, and it inspires some people here and there. And I do want to know, how do you do that at your age? How do you still maintain a decent physical fitness? And a lot of people approaching their 60s are not doing so well. I mean, I see Gen Z as an example in the video, the choice point. You talk about this. There's a young boy in there, young man who's taking up the charge to change the course of his generation and the illness that's happening because of deceptive advertising, all kinds of different things. So he's becoming a voice himself. I forget what his name is. Unfortunately, I'm not the best with remembering names, but a very bright young man who's just is able to logically look around himself and see what's going on with GMOs, with manufactured food, with processed foods, with seeds that don't cycle themselves, with all this just like weird stuff that's going on in the food industry. And we need more people coming up into this next generation to take very seriously the course of our food and the damage that's going to do to a lot of people. Because you see young obesity at its highest rate ever. I see it all around me every single day. I think to myself, when I was a kid, it was rare to see, growing up in the 70s, it was rare to see anyone who was obese. There was a couple of kids who had glandular problems, and they had genetics that made it very difficult for them. And we knew there were other things underlying that as well, and so did they. But the point was it was rare because of the way that we all ate. We pretty much always had steak on the table. We always had chicken. We always had barbecues, and we were always running around outside, burning off all of our calories, and we never really sat in front of a TV or a video game or any of that stuff. We didn't have those things. And we weren't allowed to watch TV during the day. You might get an hour or so before bedtime, and that was it. Sometimes you sneak an extra hour. If you had a TV in your bedroom, sometimes you turn it really low and you cover the screen so that there's no, mom can't see that you have the TV on your room. But beyond that, all day, all summer, we're out playing sports. We were just going at it hard, And we did it out of enjoyment, We love to play sports. We love to be outside. We love being out in nature, going on a hike or going on a bike ride over to have a picnic or something, or just to go fishing, Like, we're always doing something. It's sad to see the generations now where they're not, no kids are playing outside. I'm so bothered by that. It doesn't matter where I move. I've seen it in Colorado. No kids. There are no kids outside. When I was living there for a few years, I lived in Pittsburgh. Same thing. I lived down here in Virginia. Same thing. I lived down here in South Carolina. Same thing. Back in Massachusetts. Same thing. It's like, what's going on? Where are all the kids? There's a few that do it for a little bit, but we were out playing hide and seek all night long. Now kids think that kind of stuff is stupid because, societal standards, teach people that it's stupid. Let kids have fun, for crying out loud. Let them be physical. Let them be out in nature. Teach them the things that they need to connect with nature and God, because nature is God. God permeates all things that have been created on this planet. We need to interface with that. We are very special beings on the planet. We're very unique, Not, some might not say special, but we are very unique. And we are in charge of a lot, unfortunately. And we do break the ecosystem in a lot of ways because we are so unique. So we have a responsibility to take care of this planet, to take care of each other, to love each other, to teach each other the skills of self-love and self-care. And I'm going to do that as much as I can. So hopefully some of what I said tonight was helpful, and hopefully you'll go back and review some of it, and maybe you'll find value, maybe not. It's more helpful if I had someone come in and we can chat and have a back and forth discussion, but I don't think that's going to happen because I've been so shadow banned because I used to cover a lot of the conspiracy topics, and I know I'm on the index in the algorithm so that when I go live that everything is suppressed. After the fact, when I upload my videos, I get a lot more likes and different things like that, and it's usually not on Facebook because Facebook just doesn't show me the likes, or I've seen things disappear. Same thing with YouTube. Once you're on the bad boy list, it makes it difficult. But I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. I'm trying to shift my focus to the mind, body, and spiritual concepts as opposed to anything conspiratorial. It's hard not to get into that, in some way, because when we talk about things like societal standards, it's like you can almost not go there because there is an aspect of a controlled narrative there that's designed to divide us and to cause these things, in people. So, what else? yeah, so I think I'll leave it at that for tonight, and I'll keep trying to do what I can do. Upload this to TikTok. I usually get a lot more likes and interaction there, so I hope you enjoyed a little bit of the discussion. I hope something there, you took a few nuggets out of that, and let me know, make some comments on what you liked, what you didn't like, areas that you would like me to expand on a little bit more, and hopefully we can get some people to come on and we'll have the back and forth, because I find that that's a little bit more productive. It prompts a lot more thinking and problem solving. So until next time, well, have yourself a great night, and we'll see you next time.